Up some statistics. But if you get bored, here's that video of a bat terrorising an Irish family. In 2021, 1 in 8 New Zealand children were classified as obese. That's an increase from the previous survey. And roughly a third of our kids are overweight or obese.
We're constantly surrounded by food. There's so much ultra-processed food that's easily accessible. Cost of a lot of that ultra-processed food is a lot cheaper than, some of the healthier options.
Okay, so all I'm hearing is nothing but water and rice cakes for our bubs, right?
So a calorie-restricted diet isn't something that we would generally do in children. Children are still growing, and it's really important while they're growing and developing that we meet their nutrition needs. And it's really about bringing it back to understanding, healthy, balanced meals, and how to create those within the budget or within the home environment.
So kids don't necessarily need less food, they need more healthy grub and plenty of exercise. And they definitely don't need anyone pointing out their weight.
You've gained 9 pounds. Have you been cheating?
Children aren't, don't initially have issues with emotional eating, but it's something that we can instill in them if we don't approach things in the right way.
So how do we talk about weight and diet with our kids without making them hate themselves? Well, let's find out some more from nutritionist Mandy Sacker. Mandy, this one is a personal issue for you. Your brother went through what we're talking about, right?
That's correct. Back in those days, my mother was having trouble with my brother's weight, and it was suggested by our family doctor that he should go to Weight Watchers. So he was put on a diet where she had to measure out all of his food, and me and my other brother were free to eat whatever we wanted. So you can imagine this caused problems for him and really affected his self-esteem, knowing that he was put on the diet and that we obviously weren't.
Wow, that's pretty extreme. As a parent, what's the number one thing we shouldn't do with our kids when it comes to this?
I would say not putting our children on a diet and not making them feel that they have a problem and that they have to change their eating behaviors, where the rest of the family gets to enjoy and eat and do whatever they want. So if there is an issue with weight, we need to treat the whole family and go on a journey together, and definitely not put one child on a diet.
How do we make sure that our kids understand that, everyone does have different body types and that's okay? Is there positive messaging or tips you would give?
So I always say we never use the F word, and that F word is fat around young children. We don't look at bodies in thin or fat. We talk about bodies in what they can do for us, and their main function is to get us from A to B, is to run fast, to play soccer and to dance. Then we are giving a very healthy context for those children to think about their own bodies.
Mandy, it is a really stuffed up world when unhealthy food is so much cheaper and more available than healthy food. What advice do you have for parents who are struggling with that?
So I would say to all parents, forget about going for superfoods and organic and anything that's on trend, because that will cost you more. Focus on whole foods. Focus on minimally processed, fresh vegetables, fruit. If vegetables or broccoli, for example, is very expensive, you can actually go and look at frozen options.
Mandy, what if your son or daughter comes to you and wants to talk about their weight?
I would happily welcome that, and I would listen to what their objectives are. If they wanted to, potentially lose a bit of weight because they were being bullied at school or they weren't fitting into their clothes, I wouldn't make it just about them. I'd get the whole family together, and instead of driving to school, we may walk to school. On the weekends, we would go for bicycle rides. Then we would all do it together as a family, and I would be there in a very supportive role.
And not walk to school together and beat up the people that are teasing them.
Well, I'd hold myself back on that one.
Hey, Mandy, great to talk to you tonight. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Kia ora, everyone. Welcome along to Project. It's Thursday night and Laura Daniels here. Great to see you, Laura.
Great to be here.
Interesting topic, eh?
Yeah, it is a really tricky one to talk about, isn't it? Speaking from personal experience, there's so much I wish I had have known when I was a child around nutrition and what's, like good things to make you feel good. But I also wish I had have known about body types, and everyone has different body types, and not necessarily, there's no one rule or one thing you can do that's going to work for everyone. Which is quite cool nowadays. There's a lot more representation in media around different body types, and yeah, I just encourage, you know, children to be interested in like what makes you feel good and strong, and don't let it stop you from doing things.
Yeah, I love that. And one other issue the experts tell us is you can be extremely careful about how you talk to your child about their own body, but if a parent or a grandparent or an auntie starts talking about their own body in those terms, skinny good, fat bad, then it can risk doing just as much damage.
Oh, guilty. I do that. I will say I need to lose weight, and my daughters, to their credit, go, no, you don't, you're good, and so I tuck into the chips.
You've got some very woke daughters.
They're onto it, yeah, but I had never thought about that. I'm actually setting a bad example.
One thing we haven't talked about with child obesity is it does make them more attractive to witches.
That's part 2 of this series tomorrow night.
Thank you.
Thank you for highlighting that real concern.